pride, passion, and pageantry of college football lives here. This is the Paul Feinbaum Show, Hour 2 podcast.
This might be college football heaven.
Busy week, to say the least, and we thought next week would be busy. Welcome in. We'll try to update you on all the things that are happening. And this is from Amanda Christovich, LSU players gearing up for potential battle with SEC over eligibility. That has been going on now all week. And where are we? This is what Amanda has told us. Darren Heitner, somebody we know well, part of Wright's representation team, saying that Wright is not allowed to play, but must be allowed to play based on the TRO in Louisiana. Let's get Amanda in here and find out what is going on from the legal standpoint. Amanda, great to see you. I don't think we've talked about anything other than the Senate in a long time. We'll get to that later.
I know, right?
So, what's going on? I mean, what can you tell us about the activity in Louisiana right now?
So, as you pointed out with my tweet last night, essentially just within a couple hours of the SEC deciding to implement this policy change, I spoke with Darren Heitner, who is part of the representation team for Daquan Wright, and he said that, you know, as of that moment, which was Tuesday night, and I later confirmed this morning that that was still the case, at least as of this morning, that they were still expecting LSU to sign him, and that they were still expecting that to be something that would hold up in court. And obviously, you know, Ryan Downton, another one of Wright's legal team, the one who spearheaded the lawsuit itself, has put out a statement publicly basically saying that he is preparing to enforce this legally. And so, you know, that's kind of where we're at. Over the last couple hours, there have been reports, as I'm sure everyone has already seen, that LSU abstained from a vote to implement penalties with, to go with this SEC policy. So it clearly we're starting to see where they are. They are obviously gearing up for a legal battle of their own if they need to. And so essentially we thought we were going to be watching football, and we are in a few days, and then, with LSU specifically next week. But until then, it's like I'm refreshing court dockets, like this is our life now.
Yeah, it is really interesting. And Amanda, let me get to this part of it, because I know we don't know, but what would this court battle, what would this thing look like? Because we all know what LSU is part of this league, and they benefit from
right.
it. How could that possibly play out?
I think there are a couple different options right now. So the first thing that I will be expecting the players to attorneys to do, right? Like LSU as a university, as an entity, does not need to publicly and officially get involved in a legal battle at the first step. So first, the attorneys for these players could file a motion in this Louisiana court to ask the judge to clarify that, yes, the injunction that bars the NCAA from punishing players for engaging, for coming back to college for their professional activity, that also applies to the SEC or any conference. So they could ask for that motion. And then, keep in mind, regardless of that, on Monday, there is a scheduled hearing, because this decision wasn't even a temporary injunction. It was a temporary restraining order, which is only valid for like 10 days. So we have that. In addition to that, I'm wondering whether or not the SEC is gearing up to, follow in the footsteps of Brett Yormark in the Big 12 by filing a lawsuit against LSU, which is something that Yormark did against Texas Tech, if you remember, to basically ask a judge to affirm that they had the legal authority to punish Texas Tech for playing Sorsby despite the injunction that Sorsby got, which was against the NCAA, right? Like different situation, but kind of not. And then, on the other hand, you could imagine a scenario where LSU files a lawsuit against the SEC if they sign these players right? And it's not just the two football players. It's also R.J. Lewis, the basketball player, former St. John's, former New York City guy. He's going to LSU. They could take that lawsuit and they could file one against the SEC and say, okay, now that we've brought these guys in and you've now said you're going to punish us, we're going to sue you for that punishment. And they could do that, I guess, from a state or federal level. That might be a question for a lawyer, but those are like sort of the three scenarios that I could see playing out.
Amanda Christovich with us. Amanda, not sure how I want to ask this, but there's been some reporting out there that Lane Kiffin encouraged some of this litigation. It was all part of a master plan, in spite of all the things that he said that we all know aren't true. I mean, it's not a big surprise anymore. But in terms of the way this university is rolling, I know what they did yesterday. They went along with it. Today they didn't. Is there any handle on who is really pulling the strings behind the curtain here?
Yeah, listen, that's something that I heard as well. I personally want to make it clear that I can't dispute those reports. I didn't have enough sourcing to say on my own that was exactly what was going on, but I have seen those reports and I have no reason to believe they aren't true, because that was also what I was hearing, at least from one source, about Lane Kiffin's sort of being the brainchild and the mastermind of all of this. But I think as far as pulling the strings, the thing is once the train leaves the station, once you file the lawsuit, I guess LSU could say we don't want to be a part of this, and we're actually not going to accept you guys coming back to school, find another school, or go on your merry way, I guess, back to the NFL if they can, which is another question at this point. I guess they could always try to stop the litigation, or they could ask, or the players could do so. But now this is in the hands of a legal process, right? At least this Louisiana case. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're looking at a situation where, they could make the same decision again as Texas Tech made with the Big 12. They could say, you know what, this is a bridge too far. It's not a battle, that is worth fighting. It's also interesting because I would argue Brendan Sorsby was probably more integral to Texas Tech from an on-field perspective than these two players are at LSU. But, Lane Kiffin wants what Lane Kiffin wants. So it's hard to say who's pulling the strings. And just an anecdote for you, if you're interested,
Okay.
Sort of pulling back the curtain as a reporter, this sort of thing happened last night. We get this SEC decision, right? And so it's I reach out to LSU for official comment, right? As a university and as an athletic department separately. Because LSU athletics is, the folks there are the ones who are answering requests for comment about athletics matters. But this was an LSU president's meeting where the president of the entire university was theoretically there in the room voting. So I sent my request for comment to athletics, and then I sent one to the university-wide office of President Dr. Wade Bruce. And they wouldn't even confirm to me, yes, he was in the room. Yes, he voted yes. They wouldn't even give me these basic, confirmation. It's it's literally Watergate trying to get the most basic pieces of information confirmed.
Listen, let me make it easy for you. I live in the South. And this isn't hard to figure out. There's one person who is pulling the strings, and I can't say specifically he is pulling all of the strings, but he is behind the curtain. And that person is Jeff Landry, the governor. And the reason I bring that up is because he is following the playbook of one of his closest friends and one of his bosses on his side job. And his side job is ambassador to Greenland. He's an emissary of the president. So you don't need to call anybody for comment. You just need to look to the governor, who's replicating what is being done by the president. in Louisiana. And the reason why I bring this up is much like the president's followers on many, many issues. They don't care what the media thinks. They don't care what you think or I think or what the common norms are, because they're shattering them. And that's why Lane Kiffin is so popular. And I know I'm going long here to my question, but that's why Jeff Landry is so powerful and popular right now too, because he is spitting in the face of everyone, including Greg Sankey.
Well, I would agree with that. And to your point, speaking of requests for comment, I did reach out to the Office of Louisiana Attorney General Liz Murrell to ask if, her office would be supporting LSU in any potential litigation. And I'd like to bring this back to, again, Big 12, Texas Tech, Brendan Sorsby, and Texas Tech board chair, and to your point, friend of President Trump, Cody Campbell.
There's a commonality here, isn't there?
Right.
So one more point here, because it was the last paragraph of the SEC release Monday, and a lot of people, including you, I'll speak for you here, raise your eyebrows like, what does that have to do with this? And that's where we spent most of the summer, the College Protect Act, whatever it's called, the Ted Cruz bill. Has that thing moved at all because of all this chaos?
We don't know yet, because the opposition forces to that bill, despite the SEC signing on. And yeah, I remember I did tweet. I am old enough to remember a time when the SEC was against the Protect College Sports Act.
Exactly.
But instead, the SEC has used this as an opportunity to be in favor of it, or to say that it should be passed. Look, on a completely separate note, the opposition forces to the Protect College Sports Act, the labor organizations, Democratic Senators Chris Murphy and Cory Booker, the more they have had, they are going to have 5 weeks before the Senate comes back into session to drum up opposition to make sure that this bill never even reaches the floor. And so regardless of any sort of chaos that the NCAA or the SEC or the Big Ten could point to with eligibility and say, hey, this is the reason you should pass this bill, I wonder if it might not be enough. But then just like one other thing I wanted to add, my question is from my existential question to you or to anybody else is, one could argue that Texas Tech kind of flew too close to the sun with the Brendan Sorsby situation. At what point does Lane Kiffin, LSU, potentially even Jeff Landry or any politician who publicly gets involved, fly too close to the sun? It's a different situation, obviously, but like there is always a point at which, even if your fans are behind
Amanda,
you,
I'm way over here, but let me answer your question. Cody Campbell had friends in Texas. He had Cruz. He had perhaps the next senator, Ken Paxson. He had a couple of judges in his back, but he didn't have the entire state behind him. Texas Tech is a speck on the plains of Texas when it comes to being important. Nobody cares about them. They care about Texas and A&M, and SMU has all the money.
Good point.
Everyone cares about Louisiana in that state. There's only one school there that matters. They may support the other schools, but you cannot go anywhere, and I lived in that state for 15 months. I say exasperated. LSU, it's LSU. Amanda, I apologize for talking too much here, but I just a million things I wanted to get from you, and these producers just only gave us so much time. Let's blame them.
It's their fault, because I'd love to keep talking to you, Paul. I mean, I've learned a lot, and you're right. And why don't you wheel a cart, put some sort of bug? You need to bug the office for the rest of these meetings.
Are you in New York right now?
I am.
I'm going to be there soon. I will let you know. We'll finish this over hopefully some good food. Quick break. More to come. Your phone calls are next. We're back after this.
You're listening to the Paul Feinbaum Show podcast.
We are back. Appreciate Amanda and all the guests who have been on here today. By the way, I brought this in. Remember the guy, Agent Confidential, who calls us all the time? I now own his book, Agent Confidential, An Insider's Guide to the Business of College Football by Mike Chaudhry. Appreciate that. That is, he called us a couple of times, and he knows the inside of this industry better than some of the agents. Let's check in with Tim in Arkansas. Hey, Tim.
Well, hey, Paul. This show's been something. There's so much to talk about. But to start with, your earlier caller that lost his granddaughter, I said a prayer for him and for you. But really, Paul, Huey Long. But I was really wanting to mention something about Dolly. When I was 13, in Paragould, we had like 3 stations. And I watched Porter Wagner every Saturday on one of those 3. And this was when the Beatles were hitting it big and stuff. But I just did that just so I could watch Dolly Parton. And I still think her best movie was still Magnolias. Even though
I was talking to my wife and I were watching the news coverage last night, and she said the same thing. And I think that she had so many great roles as somebody who was not an actress. It just came to her naturally. Thanks for the call. Trey is up next. Hey, Trey.
Hey, Paul. Kind of a personal question. Then I have a sports question for you. Paul, did you ever think so many people, and I've done it, would call into your show when you first started and talk to you about their personal problems? I've done it. I-Man has done it. Health problems. I've just gone through a lot of health problems. And do you realize the influence you have on people like me? You're kind of like a voice or somebody to listen to or somebody like to cry out to. Did you ever think your show would be something like that? And where do you get that from? Because your understanding and compassion for people's problems, to me, is simply amazing. Where does that come from in you, and did you ever realize that before I get into my sports question?
No, it's not something I ever thought about, but I'll try to answer it because it's a very difficult thing to answer. But I think, Trey, you've been through a lot in your life, and I'm not crying on anybody's shoulder, but I think when you experience things, especially, and I think a lot of people out there can relate to this, at a young age, it does things to you that I'm not sure if you had this idyllic childhood, you would have the same experience. So I think it comes from that, and I think mostly it comes from being around good people, and I credit my parents for most of that, and for everything else I credit my wife.
Well, I just want to tell you, your compassion and understanding is second to none, Paul. And your show, you have allowed people to vent, and I don't know if you understand how much that means to your callers. But my question for you is this. To solve this problem about kids going to the NFL and then wanting to go back into college, what would you think if they started like a league for those type of players? I mean, we have a minor league in baseball. We have a G League in basketball. What do you think about that situation? Because some of these kids might be good
Trey,
enough.
Yeah, Trey, to me, there are already minor leagues for that, the UFL, Canada, Europe, and I think that part is probably taken care of. Thank you for the call and appreciate the kind words a minute ago. I wish I had a better answer for you. Why don't we take a break? I know it's been a busy time. We went a little bit long with Amanda, but it was so interesting, all the machinations that are currently going on. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Paul Feinbaum Show podcast.
Welcome back. BB in Montgomery is up next.
Good afternoon, Paul.
Hello.
Hello, Paul. You hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. I got two questions. First, I want to give a shout out to Frank from Alabama because I know what's going on with that. I'm sorry to hear that. But my football question is, now if they can have a fifth year, I don't mind to have field, but if they go to the pros, either basketball, whatever kind of pros, they shouldn't be able to come back. If they take that fifth year before they go, I agree with them. But if they go now and then come back, I don't think that's right.
No, and I think everybody agrees with you on that, and that's why I believe the SEC and everyone else, for that matter, has drawn a line in the sand.
Right. There you go, yes, sir. Because I don't think that's right. You know, for the freshmen coming in, you know, the kids coming out of high school, then they'll throw them back. They're like fishing. They were too late, throw it back, right? So they'll throw them kids up back.
I like that. I like that.
Okay. Well,
I wish when I used to fish, BB, I would have had something to throw back, but I never could catch anything.
Me too.
Hey, talk soon. Thanks so much. By the way, I don't know who's in charge of PR for the Big Ten. I've never met their PR director, but somebody there is pretty clever. The Big Ten has had a pretty amazing time. They win 3 straight national championships. They get out in front by almost a day of the SEC, and they get all this universal praise yesterday. SEC releases a statement that doesn't mean anything. Big Ten makes a statement that does mean something. Of course, then the SEC played catch up. It was just announced that Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti, who has been missing in action for most of his tenure, has just been given a 5-year contract extension. Again, it's all PR. It doesn't mean anything. But the Big Ten certainly has mastered the art of trying to look good compared to the rest of college football. Let's continue on, and David is in Mississippi. Hello, David.
Hey, Paul. Good afternoon. Love the show.
Thank you.
I'm an LSU fan living here in Mississippi. I've lived half my life one or the other. And I'm from the old school. You know, like in baseball, you get drafted. You don't like your pick, you can come back until you sign an agent. You know, once you sign, you're done. And I think all the sports are like that. But here's my question for you. And I know, especially here in Mississippi, Lane Kiffin is the villain of everything. And rightfully so, he brings it on himself. But what if somebody else, let's just say one of the other, like Kalen DeBoer, I think he wants his center back. Right. What if the two guys that committed to LSU, Harris and Wright, what if they had said, okay, I get another year to play, and I'm going to go back to Ole Miss and play another year? And, of course, Pete Golding says, hey, that's 2 starters. I'd love to have them back. Would we be still blowing this up as much?
No. Let me remind you, this is not a direct apples to apples here, but the Sorsby case got a lot of attention, not because it was Texas Tech, because it was a gambling issue.
Yes.
So if this had been, let's say, Pete Golding, it would be a blip on the radar screen. And I don't mean to demean Pete Golding, but
I mean either.
But the ESPN morning shows are really not going to care. They care for one reason: Lane Kiffin. I've been on enough of them this week. He's described as the villain, as the most colorful character in the sport. So, those things are, if you watch them from a distance, they rarely talk about the hinterlands on a show that emanates from New York. They talk about LeBron, the Cowboys, the Yankees, the Red Sox, and when they get to college football, for 17 years, it was Nick Saban. Now it's Lane Kiffin.
Yep. Every day.
No, and that's because and Kiffin is sitting there watching all this, and I know he is, laughing because he's done it again. Instead of talking about how he completely pillaged the state of Mississippi, how he lied and betrayed everyone in that town in the middle of it, what we all know he did. Now we're talking about something else, which is, if you're Lane Kiffin, I'd much rather have people come after me about trying to make my roster better than to trying to screw Ole Miss out of a national championship.
Yeah, I agree. So I was just curious how everybody, if there was anybody else, would we still be talking about it?
No, the answer is no, because no, it's all about Lane Kiffin. I've answered your question as succinctly as I can. Hey, thank you for the call. Really do appreciate it. Let me check in with John in Michigan. Hello, John.
Hey, Paul, how you doing? I want to just say thank you for your show. Thanks for what you do.
Thank you.
You're great. You know, I'm really a big fan. I got two really quick things from you. I talked to you once before. I'm a Michigan State alumni. And be sure of it every weekend. I'm going to wear my green and white, no matter if we go 0-12 or 12-0. So, as you said, the past 3 years, college football playoffs, we've had 3 Big Ten schools win it. Okay, I'm a Sparty, so I'm going to say, you know, I don't know how the Michigan Wolverines win in 2023 and, you know, steal play calls from the opposing
John,
team.
let me make it simple for you. They cheated their way to a national championship.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So I just want to say to all you SEC fans out there, you guys just be aware of those guys. They cheat. That's a bunch of crap. Second thing is, in your professional opinion, sir, do you think, I know Michigan State is rebuilding in the Big Ten right now. We've been doing it for a few years, and yeah, we're struggling a little bit. But do you think we're going to win enough games to reach a bowl game this year and get above 500, sir?
My guess is yes. I don't know a lot about their roster, John, but I do know a lot about their program. I've been around Michigan State when D'Antonio was there. I've followed the program really since I was a kid, and Duffy Dougherty was the head coach, and it's very capable. There's a lot of money there. There's a lot of fascination, and I think they've just bumped into the wall a few times, but I suspect they'll be back. Augie is up next in Nolans. Hey, Augie.
Well, Duffy Dougherty. When was the last time anybody said that name? God, that's
1966.
Like hey, let's talk about Chris Schenkel calling the game, right? I mean,
beautiful.
He was around back then.
A beautiful fall day here in East Lansing. It's 12 degrees.
One of my favorite game casters, game announcers. But, Paul, so Greg Sankey is trying to redeem his reputation now by being a tough guy. He just set us up with a 9-game SEC schedule, but I'm going to be tough. I'm going to put some restraints on these.
Hey, Augie, hold on a second. Your president voted for it yesterday, okay?
Yeah, well, hey, my president was in a corner. There's nothing he could do about it. Now we don't have a basketball team, Paul. You know, we were bringing in like a 7'8" guy from Israel. Did you see that?
Yeah, I mean, listen. Hey, Augie, never fear. Will Wade will find 12 players to fill that roster.
Well, that's why we hired him. We want him back for that. But so, Paul, this is what I don't understand. Yesterday, you had a couple of people. I don't know. Maybe Swamp Dog was one of them. Maybe not. So don't. You know, I'm disclaimer here. But they were talking about the poor kids on the roster who are going to get bumped because you're bringing in professionals. These poor, unfortunate kids who've worked so hard. Paul, how many times in life have you worked so hard and didn't get something because you thought it was unfair? I mean, these kids are no longer kids anymore, Paul. They're not the poor student athlete. These are paid assassins to play football. I don't care if they get bumped. I don't care if they get dumped. They're there because they're employees at this point. They're getting paid to do something. Feelings are out the door. Poor kid. What about the poor kids in high school who never get recruited because their high school coaches are bums and don't promote them? What about those poor kids? We're always talking about poor kids. Do you agree that now there are no more poor kids in college football?
No. So let me give you a quick example. I'm on First Take this morning with Mad Dog Russo, and the question is how much pressure is on Keelan Russell? And I think Louis Riddick said enormous. And Mad Dog, who I don't know follows college football, but he said, that's unfair. We can't put the pressure on a 19-year-old kid. And I'm like going, this guy's making $3 million a year. I mean, we all should be that lucky. He just kept droning on like it's 1965.
Well, what about the poor kid who's an E1 in the Army, who's getting missiled by the Iranians, and he's making maybe $20K a year?
I agree.
Is that not a poor kid?
No, I never want to hear these two expressions again. I'll probably be guilty of one of them. I don't want to hear any more about these kids, and I never, ever want to hear a commissioner, college president, or some bonehead reporter refer to them as student athletes.
Absolutely. Amen, Brother Paul. Thank you very much, and I'll leave on a high note.
We'll be back on that note right after this.
You're listening to the Paul Feinbaum Show podcast.
A busy show, more guests to come as we continue trying to figure out what is going on in college football. We have not figured it out yet. Let's check in with John in Louisville. I hope he has some answers.
I don't yet, Paul, but I agree with Augie. I don't want to hear about these lawyers toiling away as paralegals. It's a great time for everyone else, but not them. Hey, Paul, nice job by you and your team rushing to provide to us the SEC announcement as you were signing off yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've been there a lot of times when I'm getting in my car and there's like, coach gets fired or whatever. But that was I was really glad because we knew it was coming. John, you knew it was coming. What time was it? Yeah, I mean, I told some people in New York from one of the shows, I said, I never say this again. I guarantee you we'll have this story by tomorrow morning. And of course, thank goodness we did.
Yeah, and Paul, going forward, can we just refer to the whole damn LSU crew from governor to president to AD to coach, maybe even Smash Mouth, as all the King's men?
Yeah, and I don't even think I have a copy of that book, but I'm going to find one as quickly as I can because it's been forever. I mean, the movie was good too, by the way, but I don't think I've read that.
Paul.
Yeah.
There's two movies. First movie had Broderick Crawford.
Oh, yeah.
But the later movie was Sean Penn, both playing Willie Stark, were both excellent.
I don't know if I've seen the Sean Penn movie.
It's excellent. It's a different type of flavor, but he does just as good a job as Broderick Crawford.
Okay, I will. Yeah, I remember as a kid. Broderick Crawford was in the Highway Patrol.
Yeah, Highway Patrol, right?
I couldn't tell you one thing about. I just remember, in the '60s and '70s they would replay that. But the book is the Robert Penn Warren. Even though he grew up, I think, in the East Coast, he taught at LSU during the period of Huey Long. That's why he wrote the book.
Yeah, and then also Elmer Gantry in the movie starring, I can't think of his name, was also excellent. But Paul, does it seem LSU is two-faced, particularly with the respect to the LSU abstaining on the penalty phase, and then they agree to new conference rules, but in a rogue way they will collaborate with the professional player and their attorneys, kind of like Alabama's basketball coach and AD as they attempted to circumvent the rules with the G Leaguer, and then they shamelessly claimed they were just giving him a chance to get this education and were following court direction. Does it seem rather hypocritical?
Well, I mean, of course it is. And I'm assuming this meeting is wrapping up. I don't know that. It would be very interesting to hear what the LSU president says, because at some point he will say something in the right setting. Because he's got a lot of answering to do. How does he really feel? Is he going to? Are they going to be a member in good standing? And John, I'm sure you've been in enough of those meetings where you don't want to, but you have to. And that's the way the SEC rolls. It's one of the biggest votes the SEC has ever had, And if you're going to be an outcast, and the real question I have, and this came up, remember when Texas and Oklahoma were leaving the Big 12, the Big 12 really didn't want them around any longer in important meetings. Are you going to trust the president of LSU on any sensitive, important issue that comes down when you very well may be in court against him?
Yeah, and finally, Paul, can we agree the most important news really is the SEC and Big Ten are starting to make their own rules, apparently enforcing them. And Mad Dog's comment that LSU just needs to lay low for a change.
Yeah, I mean, again, I normally do the whole show. I had to go somewhere right after that, so that's why I bailed out of that show. But I'm glad I did, frankly, because I mean, he just doesn't understand that. And I don't think we need a Senate bill anymore, because what we saw yesterday really is where we're going. The conferences are going to make up their own rules. Congress, if you can help me on this, I've yet to see anything in that crazy Ted Cruz bill that gives uniform protection of antitrust.
No, all this would still occur. That's the sad news.
And that's why I was so baffled by the SEC trying to shill for the Senate bill that they really have been against most of the time in that statement. It just didn't belong in there, and I have no earthly idea who put it in there.
Frankly, I think the latest news over the last few days will further kill the bill, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, there was a moment Monday when if this thing had just completely been a mushroom cloud, you might have gotten a little more support. But, I mean, John Kennedy, who is a senator from Louisiana, has come out against the bill. And he basically said you ought to put the NCAA people in jail. The other senator, Bill Cassidy, will go against it because the president is in favor of it. I mean, that's just the politics of Washington, D.C. He's also a big LSU fan and graduate. We'll take a break. We have a long way to go. Adam Rittenberg coming up next.
You're listening to the Paul Feinbaum Show podcast.